Hey Stitch Cutie, I'm Brittany with Stitches of Love Quilting, and this is the video tutorial for using the embroidery files to make your pillow top in the hoop of your embroidery machine. So when I say pillow top, it means that we're gonna do all of the buttonhole stitching and all the ironing down of our applique pieces, and it's gonna do our accent stitches. Then we'll take it off the hoop of our embroidery machine and we'll actually complete the borders, the rickrack, and then the back of the pillow over on our regular sewing machine. So let's talk about the materials you need to have. First, the embroidery files only work with the pre-fused laser cut applique pieces from your kit. So you have a kit with all these great pieces. You're gonna wanna go on and just snip. They're just like little 1/8" snips that you do out of the larger piece that they're in, and go on and peel all the backing off your pieces. I like to have a little jar beside me so I can put all of my laser cut pieces in here for safekeeping, and then I'll put all the trash in my little trash can. The other materials that you need to have are, of course, your thread. So there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colors that you need to have. I like to use a sulky 40 weight thread. I think they're just a dream in the embroidery machine. So let me tell you the colors. So you'll need to have a black in sulky colors, that's 1005. And these are 40 weight rayon threads. If I didn't say that, I can't remember. And then we have a green, which is 1177. Then we have the orange, which is 1168. And this gold and yellow color, 0567, and last but not least, the gray, which is 1218. So those are the only thread colors you need to have. And then, of course, from your kit, you have your background fabric. And it's cut to the right size. You don't need to do anything. You do want to make sure that you press it nice and flat, because it will get wrinkled in shipping, of course. So just make sure it's wrinkle-free. And so the very first step you're going to do after you have all your pieces gathered, and again, I like to use a steam fast travel iron, and then I have a Steady Betty in front of me so that when I'm ironing all my little applique pieces on in the hoop, I can just put my hoop down right in front of me, iron everything in, and this iron is great for working inside of a hoop. Now the hoop requirement is 8 inches by 12 inches. You can't get away with a smaller hoop or your pillow will not be the right size and it won't work with the right pieces. So let's get started. I'm going to thread my machine with the black thread and prompt the machine to do the very first step. Now what that's gonna do is give me a rectangle outline so I know where to put my background fabric. So we'll be back in one moment to do that. Okay, so that first step stitched a rectangle for you. I'm gonna turn my hoop sideways just because that's how it fits on my workstation space the best way. So now I'm just going to lay it flat on top of my Steady Betty. Now every time I take this on and off to put pieces on or anything, I'm gonna be really careful not to disturb the contents of my hoop, right? Because if I move where my stabilizer is in the hoop, it's gonna mess up all my pieces. So I'm gonna simply just take my lime green background fabric, and you can see we give you way more than you need in your kit. And I'm just gonna lay it flat. If you'd like to tape it in place, you certainly can. I just am gonna use a little smidge of tape at the top and the bottom to hold it in place. This is just basic 3M transport tape. You can pick it up on Amazon. And I think you get like 5 or 10 of them in a little bundle for like 10 or 20 bucks. You get tons of tape. And I'm gonna put this back on and prompt to that next step. Now I still have the black thread on because the machine is going to do our black accent stitching. Let me show you what it's gonna do right now. Make sure you can see. Whoop, over here, see this spider? If we waited and did this spider accent stitching and this little loop-de-loop at the end, then what would happen is your machine would have to do a knot on each leg, right? Whereas if we do it now at the very beginning, the machine is gonna do just one continuous line here and here. And while we're at it, it's gonna go on and outline 2 pieces for us. So again, keep your black thread on your machine. And then I do want to mention that I have all my pieces. Now you can see this is my little trash bin. I cut out all my pieces and I've peeled the backing off of all of them. Now I do want to say you can see the black pieces that I haven't peeled yet. Let me make sure I'm good and in the shot. Yep. So I have not trimmed these out because if you'll notice they are itty bitty. So I'm going to wait till I actually need to iron those on. So I'm just going to keep that for cutting out at the end. Just a little tip. And the scissors that I like to trim with are these Karen K. Buckley scissors. That we carry them in small, medium, and large. This is the medium pair, and any of those 3 sizes is perfect. So let's go on to that next step and we'll be back to iron on our first pieces. Okay, so now after that second step, you have your cute little accent line and you have your little spider legs, and you have the accent line over here. You'll notice that they're stitched a little thicker, and that's because they're the triple stitch. And then you'll notice you have an outline of 2 pieces, and that's a thinner line because all of our lines for our placement lines are going to be a single stitch. So I'm going to lay this down in front, and the 2 pieces I need are my little bat. So I'm going to go through my pieces and find my bat. And then you also need to have the one little stem that the bat is hanging on. So I'm going to cut that little piece free right now. And it's so little, so it's one of the pieces I'm waiting till the end, you know, as I'm needing it to cut. So you just simply crimp it and pull that backing off. There we go. And we're going to iron our 2 pieces on. It's important that you iron the little stem piece down first, and you'll see that it's going to fit perfectly within this outline so nicely. And this eliminates all that tack down stitching and cutting around the bigger piece of fabric. It just really makes the applique process so much easier with your embroidery machine, and it allows you to have that nice buttonhole stitch and perfect finished edges. So you can see it lines up perfectly, and I'm just going to iron it right into place. So now we're going to do a thread change because we don't want all of our pieces outlined in black. I typically like to match what I'm outlining my pieces in a fabric that matches the background. So we're going to now, for the next 1, 2, 3 steps, we are going to use the green 1177 as the thread color that's going to outline the rest of our applique pieces. So change your thread and move on to the next step, and we'll come back and we have a bunch of pieces to iron on with this next step. So now you can see, let me bring this close for you, you have a whole bunch of pieces outlined, and it's time to iron them on. So again, I'm going to put this down securely on top of my Steady Betty in front of me. And now we're going to iron on our pieces. I do want to point out that it's very important to iron them in a certain order, because if you take a look, the pieces are layered, right? Like this leg is under that leg. Both legs are under the dress and the shoes. The shoes are under the yellow. So I'm going to walk you through the order in which you want to iron it. So I'm going to start right here with the legs. And so you're going to want to make sure that you put down this leg that's crossing from left to right. You want to put that one down first. So let me just see which leg that is. It's this leg. So we're going to put that in place first. And again, it's going to be a perfect fit. So we'll just iron that. Only takes a few seconds for the fusible to fuse. It's Heat and Bond Light that we use on all of our pre-fused laser cut pieces. So we'll just iron this one. And actually, I'm going to make sure I remove my tape down here so that I don't have to worry about accidentally ironing on it. If you iron on the tape will kind of melt a little, and that is not good for your iron. And I'll take it down away from the top as well. Okay, so we have the 2 little legs on. Now let's put the shoes on. Aren't these just the cutest little witch shoes? I love them. And the shoes are mirror images of each other. So we'll just tap that, make sure that little point that you get that right in place where you want it. There we go, so now I can tap that all the way. And now we'll do our other shoe. Cutest little witch shoes. And just get it right in place. And put the iron directly over it. You never want to slide your iron back and forth. So of course that could move your piece, and that wouldn't be good. And now we'll do our rectangle at the bottom, the little base that she's standing on. There we go. Okay, so now let's move on up to her arm area. So what we're gonna do is work on this right side. So you can see on the pillow, and again, the numbers that are on your little README file with this, you can see that the little hand is underneath the arm. You can see the neck is underneath the dress as well. And then you can see over here that you actually have this pumpkin stem and this pumpkin, and then the hand, the arm, and then this pumpkin. So let's get those in order. So let's put the little neck on, and I think I didn't get the neck out of my little piece. Here it is. I like to sit my pieces out to the side when I'm filming so that I have them in order so I don't goof. So put the little orange neck on. And then we are going to do the little hand right here. So we're doing the hand on the right side of your Jackie-O. And then we'll do the arm. And the arm, one arm is longer than the other, so you just need to make sure you get the right arm. See? Yep. Let's see, do I have the right arm in the right spot? There we go, this is that arm. One arm is just a little longer, so you can just put it right in place and you'll know if you have the right one. So we're gonna iron that in place. And now we can go on and iron this heart down here. So I'm gonna get my cute, this is a fun little fabric. It's orange with like little random black dots on it. Super cute. All the fabrics in the kit are actually a mix of Moda, Riley Blake, and a little bit of Maywood Studios. So a nice little combo of fabrics for you. And now we're gonna move to the right side. So again, to point out, we're gonna lay the little pumpkin stem first, then we're gonna put this big pumpkin in the spider, then we'll do the hand, the arm, and then this little pumpkin. So again, just keeping you updated what we're doing, sew along with me and iron along with me and you'll have a perfect result. So we're gonna put that green in place. Isn't it cute? Your little piece is gonna start coming to life. I love it. And then we put our pumpkin. There we go. So really fun Swiss dot. And then we'll do the hand. Well, we can go on and do the little spider down here too. So we'll put our spider right here. There we go. So cute. And then our hand. You just want to make sure you have them turned the right way. There we go. So don't you love this, not having to trim? If we were doing this like the traditional method of machine embroidery applique, we would have to do so many layers of trimming and cutting, and that just would not be enjoyable. So this way, all of those steps are taken out for you, and you're just left with one easy to do machine embroidery applique project. So now that the little arm and the hand are in place, it's time for this little bitty pumpkin stem. And it's real little, so make sure you don't lose it. That's why I have my little jar of pieces. And get him right in place. There we go. And now this pumpkin, it's a really fun orange on orange dot. I'm not sure if you're picking up a theme. We like dots and stripes and fun textures on our applique fabrics. Really makes the projects come to life. And then the last piece in this center section that we're gonna put on is Jackie-O's dress. And so just to make sure it's lined up, it's a perfect fit everywhere. There we go. And I secure, I like to on a bigger piece, I move from like one side to the other. There we go. And now the final piece of this step is the top of her pumpkin head. So cute. And this is a project, I'm sure you already know, that we collaborated on with our friend Amy of Amy Bruecken Designs. So this originally was a cross-stitch design. And then my mom, Julie, the designer here at Stitches of Love, and then Amy of Amy Bruecken Designs worked together to turn it into machine applique and machine embroidery. So such a fun project. So this is what your piece should look like right now. I'll get close up for you. So see, you have all your pieces ironed on. So you're gonna keep that green thread on your machine. You're gonna put this back on. The machine is gonna give us an outline of several more pieces, and we'll be back to iron those on. Okay, so take a look at the other round of pieces that we're gonna put on now. So let's get started. So the first piece that I'm gonna put on is her little dress, the apron. And again, perfect fit right within the stitches. There we go. So I'm gonna iron that. And then just make sure it stays in place. Now let's do Jackie O's face. So you have 3 pieces for her face. You're gonna do the 2 solid orange pieces first. So just make sure you have them in the right orientation. So the first one we're gonna do is the left side of her face. There we go. Then we'll do the right side of her face. And we're doing this because that center piece is on top. So that's, you know, we always want to make sure that we put our layers down in the right order. There we go. And then the center piece of her face. All right. Oh, actually that goes on next. Oops, don't put that on just yet. Just kidding, because you can't see your lines. So you're gonna do those 2 pieces. Then you're going to do, let's see, we have some little faces. I almost jumped ahead. That would have been bad. Okay, so now we have the little bitty square in the mouth. And again, these little bitty pieces, I wait until I'm actually using them to cut because they are so itty bitty. There we go. So that little square, and then we have the mouth. So I'm gonna cut him free. Boop. And what I love about these scissors is they're sharp all the way to the tip. So when you're cutting something really small like this, that is really helpful. See, just a little snip there. Okay, so let's iron those 2 and then we'll cut out the face right here. So I'm gonna remove the backing, put it in my little trash bin, and I'm going to put both pieces in place and just iron one time. So get that in place. And this little dot, I tell you what, it sure is small. There we go. I think it actually helps right now if you have nails. So get that down. Make sure you have the fusible side down. So get that little bitty square in place. Aren't you glad you're not having to trim this like traditional applique? Oh my goodness. Okay, so those 2 pieces are in place. It does take a little patience. If you have little tweezers, sometimes that helps when you put something like this in place. But it's ironed on now. And so now we're gonna cut out the triangle and the little bitty mouth of this pumpkin. Oops, so just a little trim there. And a little trim here. And then we have this triangle right here. Boop. There we go. All right, and again, I still have the face pieces for right here. We're going to ignore that for now because we're not to that step yet. So just keep those over there. And so now I'm gonna get these 2 pieces in place. So you peel the backing, and I hope I'm in the shot. I know when I'm peeling backing, I kind of pull towards myself, just habit of where I keep my hands. So we're gonna get that triangle right in place, and then the little bitty mouth. And the eyes on these pumpkins are French knots. We're actually gonna do those when we put our buttons on. So I'll show you how to do a French knot, just in case you haven't ever done that. It's a really easy stitch. French knots used to scare me. They're not scary at all, I promise. And we'll iron that in. Now what we're gonna do is have the applique placement line for our face outlined, and then the machine is actually, while we're still with the green thread, gonna do the buttonhole stitches on the green so that we, you know, of course, there's few thread changes as possible, and it's also gonna do the little green mouth on your bat. So again, we'll be back to iron on this piece right here, and then the green stitching is gonna be done. Okay, so take a look. You have the outline of that final face piece before we put on the black pieces of her face, and you can see all of the green is perfectly stitched for you. Looks great, doesn't it? So now let's iron this one piece on, and then we're gonna do a thread change. So put this right here and iron it right on. And now we're gonna change to orange. And yes, there are still a few more pieces we're gonna need to iron on. It's going to stitch that in orange for us while it's doing the buttonhole stitch for everything else. So the orange color that I am using, again, is the Sulky 40 weight, and it is number 1168. So we'll put that on and we'll be back to change threads and put on the final pieces. Okay, so now all the orange is done. So what you're gonna do, I didn't raise my foot. What you're gonna do, take a look. You have a few more pieces to iron on the face and then the apron. So let's get those ironed on, and then we're gonna change to black thread, and it's gonna do all the black buttonhole stitching for us. So let's do our little pumpkin face first. Now these pieces are really small, so be careful. You don't want to lose them, and you want to make sure you get them right in the right spot. So I'm just going to hold the ends of his mouth in place. I'm going to tap the center, and then I'll just work my way to the sides of his mouth. And then we have itty bitty little nose. I'm going to put the nose in place. There we go. So just tap that for a second. And then we're gonna do an eyeball. There we go, let's see which eye it is. There we go. And just hold it in place. There we go. And then look, our little face is coming to life. Isn't that so cute? And then this other piece right here. And again, I have mine turned sideways just because of the space I have on my table. So take a look, there's your face in place. Now let's do the pieces on the apron. So again, really small pieces. So be careful not to lose them. Have your little moon. And then we're gonna put our star in place. And then when we get to the candy corn, we're gonna put it in a particular order because again, when it's layered, you wanna make sure you have those layers in the right order. And oops. I have it sticky side up. I was about to iron that to my iron. That would have been bad, wouldn't it? So you're just gonna turn until you know you have your star facing the right way. There we go. Oh, I'm just gonna tap that right into place. Always make sure, of course, you have that fusible side down, because if you iron it to your iron, that's not fun. So the first piece we're gonna put down is our orange, which is right in the middle. Boop. And then it doesn't matter if you do white or yellow next, but I'm just gonna do white because it's what I picked up. You just wanna make sure you do the orange piece first. And then I'll iron that. And then the very final piece to iron on, yay! There we go. And it's ironed right in place. Now we're gonna change to a black thread, and the machine is gonna do a whole bunch of stitching for us. It's gonna stitch, of course, around our bat, our apron, our shoes. It's gonna do around the little faces, and then it's gonna do the little accent stitches over the arms. So load that black thread, which is 1005 if you're using the sulky, and we'll be back for the next color change. Okay, so let's take a look. Your little Jackie O is really coming to life. So all of the black is now stitched. It looks great, doesn't it? So there's nothing to iron on, so you don't actually have to take this off the hoop. I just do so I can show you in the camera. But it's time for a color change. We are now going to load the golden yellow color, which is 0567 if you're using the sulky 40 weight, and the machine is gonna stitch your candy corn, your star, your moon, and the little base that your Jackie O is standing on. Okay, check out your Jackie O. All that yellow is stitched. Didn't your apron just come to life with that yellow popping on the purple? I love it. So now we have just one final color change, and that is to put on the gray, which is 1218, and it's gonna stitch around the little spider. And then it's gonna be time to talk about a few little tips for finishing on your sewing machine, and we'll talk about the French knots and the buttons. Yay, it's time to do a happy dance. Let's take a look. Everything is now perfectly stitched on your Jackie O. Doesn't it look so good? So now let's talk about the next steps. So I'm gonna take it out of my hoop. Let me set my hoop aside. Now let's talk about what we'll do. So one thing you wanna do, if you have any little hairs from, little threads where you might have held your thread or something, go on and do a little trim. Make sure you don't have anything, that you shouldn't, like a little stray thread. And now you'll notice on the pillow that we need to do some French knots. So we need to do French knots on our little pumpkins, and then our spider and our bat. And the reason I didn't have the embroidery machine do like little eyeball stitches is because I just think the look of the French knot really was better in this design. Sometimes when Mom does a French knot, I'll actually program it to do little satin stitching eyeballs, but I just like the look of the French knots better with this. So what you're gonna wanna do is do your French knots. So what I'm using, you can use the embroidery thread, the 40 weight rayon if you want. I'm actually gonna switch over to the sulky 12 weight cotton. It's like what we use for our hand embroidery projects. One strand is equivalent to 2 strands of floss. And I want my French knots to be very visible. So instead of just having one strand, you know, not knotted off, I've knotted it at the end. So I essentially am using 2 strands of sulky, which is the equivalent of 4 strands of regular floss, because I want a big French knot. So I am just gonna come up from the back where I want my eyeball to be on my little bat. You come all the way up. Let me make sure, am I in the center of the camera? I think so. So then what you're gonna do, take your hand, you're holding it, and you're gonna take your needle, and you are going to wrap this around. Now, however many times you wrap is how big your French knot's gonna look. Again, I want a really big eyeball. So I went around 3 times with a double strand. And then you're gonna hold this tight around your needle, and you're gonna go back almost through that exact same hole, just 1 needle width over. You're gonna keep the tension on that little wrap. And then you are going to pull through on the back, all the while keeping your finger right there over that French knot. And then voila. The key to a good French knot is to make sure you have your finger holding it with good tension. Now, you can knot off, or you can just go on and travel over just a smidge and do your second French knot. Because it's not gonna be visible, you know, the backside isn't gonna show through because it's under black fabric, I'm gonna go on and just travel. But that choice is yours. So again, you take your needle, and I'm centered, right? Yeah, I am. So you're gonna take your needle, you're gonna wrap 1, 2, 3 times. Again, typically, I know when Mom does French knots, she only wraps twice. I want this to be a big old hefty French knot, so I'm wrapping 3 times. The choice is yours. And if you wanna do a couple French knots on a scrap first to see what look you like, definitely try that. And then just keep your finger there and hold it, and voila. So then you would just knot this off like you would anything, and you're ready to go. So let me just pull through and do my knot. There we go. And let me trim this out of the way. So now I'm gonna tell you how we trim. Now there are buttons that you need to put on, but you're gonna wanna put your buttons on after you have your borders, after you've put the batting on, and after you've quilted your pillow top. Because you don't wanna have to dodge buttons while you're quilting. Whether or not you're quilting, maybe you put this on your frame, like if you have a long arm, or if you're quilting it on your regular sewing machine. It's no fun to dodge buttons. So now, let's trim. The great thing about using your embroidery machine on this project is, remember this original rectangle? That's your trim line. So you're gonna have a perfectly square project to work with. And all you have to do is cut directly over that stitched line. And that's another reason it didn't matter at the beginning. Remember, it stitched in black? It didn't matter because it's gonna get cut away. See? And then you'll just repeat that on all the sides. Now I have a short ruler back here. I would recommend having a longer ruler, but this works for purposes of the video. And what I have down in front of me is just a standard cutting mat, and I'm using my standard rotary color. Nothing fancy. And then we're just gonna trim. And then the next steps will be to follow the pattern. You'll put your borders on. So you're gonna do your left and right of that cute black and white polka dotted fabric. Then you'll do the top and bottom of your borders on the pillow. Then you will put your batting, do the quilting, add the buttons, do the rick-rack, and then you'll make the back and connect the pillow, and then insert a pillow form. Now in your instructions, we do give you, it fits a standard 12 by 16 pillow form if you just wanna pick up a pillow form, but we also give you instructions on making a quick pillow insert. So ta-da, look at that, absolutely perfect. And all you have to do is gently peel your stabilizer away, tear that away before you, of course, put your batting on. So peel all that away. And let me come in close for you again. Look how perfect your Jackie O is. Doesn't she just look fantastic? All stitched in the frame of your embroidery machine. Absolutely fantastic. If you have any questions at all while you're doing this, don't hesitate to reach out and email us, and we're happy to help answer any questions we may not have covered in the pattern or the tutorial. Hopefully we're pretty thorough and you've got everything you need though. So again, reach out if you have any questions, and thank you so much for having fun with us with this Jackie O pillow.